providers of expertise on open government. Um, and we're responsible for implementing that within the context of OGP. So what I really want to do today for this panel is, since we're running against time anyway, make very brief remarks, because I think the real expertise is to the left and right of me, and I'll allow them to speak and talk about the issues that we want to discuss today. But really, what I guess to set up the discussion, I'll just make a really brief remark about open data and its popularity that we see in the open government partnership. We've heard a lot of statements from Secretary Clinton, from Samantha Power, from the plenary panel this morning, from the gentleman from Yemen, about open data being, being not enough, or essentially being a tool. And we want to interrogate that idea further today, because there seems to be a tendency, and as we're seeing already from some of the open government commitments that are coming out of governments, that a lot of the commitments center around open data initiatives. And while, of course, open data is an incredibly powerful tool, it can solve some governance challenges, but it can also be used, sometimes we think, because it's the easiest solution that's there. It's one of the low-hanging fruit. It's not politically controversial, and open data is always sexy. It's always cool, and governments love to be part of initiatives like that, to give the impression that they're on the cutting edge of technology. But of course, it's also an incredibly powerful tool. And what I really want to do today is, through our experienced panel here, I want them to highlight key examples or their experiences of how really open data tools and technologies have been used to solve real open government challenges and create impact on the ground. And of course, want to walk us through lessons learned through their experience, as well as highlight the road going forward and give us a few pointers to see, as the open government partnership evolves, how can open data be used to truly meet some of the open government principles and commitments that countries are making. So with that comment, I think I'll allow our panelists to speak, and I want to introduce my first panelist. That's Tim Kelsey. Tim Kelsey is the UK government's Executive Director of Transparency and Open Data. He leads the development of the national policy to promote open government. In 2007, he launched NHS Choices, which is the National Health Online Information Service, and now reports about 14 million unique users a month. He was named Reformer of the Year by the think tank Reform in 2011. He received the award for Outstanding Contribution in Healthcare from Health Investor magazine in 2008. And he was also the co-founder of Dr. Foster, which is a company that pioneered the publication of patient outcomes of health data online. And before that, he's served as a journalist, both in a newspaper journalist as well as on TV. So without further delay, I'll allow Tim to present his remarks.
I've got some slides, but actually I'm going to just start without the slides, because I think there's a really important question that I've been asked, I don't know, every hour of the last 2 days, which is, what do I mean by open government? And I think one of the things maybe we could just reflect on during this session is everybody should have an answer to that question. And it was echoed in some of the remarks we heard this morning from that brilliant panel discussion. And obviously, open government is not about governments. And I just wanted to sort of start by thinking, so when I'm asked that question, my response is actually open government is about me. It's about giving me the tools that I can use to control my life. It's actually about the absence of government. It's about me being able to go to a hospital and be sure that I'm getting the safest care I can get, being able to make an informed decision about whether I want to go to that hospital, or whether I want my child to be educated in that school or that school. It's about the teacher and the doctor having access to information that makes them better. I'm going to come back to that in shortly. But in the end, it's about me. And I wanted just to tell a really quick story, which some of you will have heard before, but it's just worth repeating because it really came across to me in the comments that the Libyan minister made earlier. And in fact, I'm going to Libya in a couple of weeks' time to talk to them about how they can, from this amazing start, really develop open government as an instrument of me, not an instrument of government. And the first thing they need to do is to get their data together on their health system, because health, in the most extreme case, open data is actually about saving lives. So at one extreme, that's how powerful it can be. It's not even about me making a decision, it's about whether I live or die. And in the UK, we have a very specific experience of this. So I just wanted to very quickly tell a story of three kinds of open data, how it can be the most important public policy lever of our generation. And the first of those is that 7 years ago, as our minister mentioned this morning, the heart surgeons in our country just voluntarily decided to publish their data. And they did that because they knew that there was some of their number, there are 240 cardiac surgeons in the UK, and some of them were killing their patients. We had a big scandal, a number of children died, and it was because the negligence of the doctors in the hospital was real and nobody knew. And if anybody had looked at the data, some of those children would have lived. So in light of that, the cardiac surgeons published their data. 7 years later, more than 1,000 people every year live when they would have died, because the survival rates, the death rates of those doctors has declined by, in some cases, up to 50%. And the reason for that is because they share their data. So doctor here can see what doctor there is doing, and that's open data. That's open data saving lives, first part of our story. So the reason we should be doing open data, and every action plan should focus on prioritizing data sets which are going to make the most impact on people, and the first of those is impact which literally can transform and improve the safety of our health systems, in my view. The second sort of tier of this is really empowering me. Again, it's like I'm alive now because my doctors know whether they're doing a good or a bad job. I've improved my chances of survival. It's that basic. Now I want to exercise my right to actually make myself healthier, just to continue with the health story. So what I need is access to my own data. I mean, it's almost unimaginable that we live in societies largely which have our data, our medical data, but do not let us have access to it. So we can't make informed decisions about our own healthcare. So in the UK, our Chancellor announced in November that from 2014, so just a couple of years away, every single citizen in our country will have the right to online access to their medical records. And we think, just like online banking, that this will unleash the opportunities for digital productivity, that we will completely change the way we do our health, just like we have in banking. Just a quick aside, in the UK, online banking was first introduced 12 years ago. 12 years later, 22 million adults only do online banking. And that's because the banks gave us our data back and asked us to be their clerks, to do all their administration, and we love it. We think it's the most empowering thing that's ever happened. We need the same thing in our healthcare system. And so that's sort of part one is we have to put the data out there that will transform the safety and public service of systems. We have to give people their own data. That's transparency just as much as transparency of big data. And the third thing is we have to recognize the power of open data to unleash economic growth. So my view is that the 21st century, already we can see this is going to be the century of knowledge. And the public assets we have, these enormous gold mines of data, are amongst the most valuable commodities that all our countries have. So if we can give our entrepreneurs, our innovators access to this data, they will do things we can only barely imagine. Now, interestingly, today, this is me being really transparent, today our National Audit Office, which I deeply respect and have profound admiration for, has just, that's not quite true, but anyway, has just published a report on transparency on our work, in which they quite rightly say that actually we've done pretty good work, and please look at it, I mean, do read it, but we've done pretty good, but we haven't yet made the case for the economic benefits of transparency. What the National Audit Office want is us to say, this is worth $200 billion to our economy every year, and we simply can't do that now because we're just beginning to sort of conceive of how we might calculate impact. But just to give you a sense of the potential value, in Europe, McKinsey, I used to work there briefly, published a report, again I commend this to you, last year, which suggested that the value of open data in Europe is around $250 billion each year. And this is like an untapped industrial resource. So we should think of it like that. We should think, so there are the three parts of open data for me. You've got data that will make a difference to the quality and outcomes of public services. That's priority one. Priority two is giving people their own data. Priority three is publishing data that will empower enterprise. we end up with a message that's going to be the Open Government Partnership mantra for the next, under the UK co-chairmanship for the next 18 months, which is about prosperity. You know, open data unlocks prosperity on all these levels. It's about me, it's about my job, it's about whether or not I'm safe in my health system. And I think that's probably all I was going to say, to be honest. But I think we can talk about details, we can talk about technicalities, we can talk about data.gov. Yes, we can share our API with you. I've got messages to you about the importance of various technical platforms, and we can, but actually, if we leave all that aside, the only really important thing is that we recognize that open data is not this small little thing that's just for a bunch of developers and kind of activists. Actually, open data is how we completely change our world. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Tim. I appreciate your comments because it was essentially a view from government of what I like to think of as supplier open data. And what's great about this panel is we have panelists who represent different stakeholders, in turn representing various parts of the value chain of, if you will, of the open data uh, movement. So with those comments, I want to introduce my next speaker, and that's going to be Eric Gunderson from Development Seed in the United States. Eric coordinates product and business strategy as CEO of Mapbox, a platform that lets anyone make fast and beautiful maps and share them anywhere. He's passionate about open data and building open sources of data, especially visualization tools focused on speed and design. And previously, Eric's worked, and he was the co-founder of Development Seed, which is a creative data visualization team in Washington, D.C. So, Eric, you have the floor.
Great. As some of my slides come up, Abhinav, thank you. This is a very exciting time, and it's wonderful to be in front of such distinguished guests. It's an exciting time because we're hearing, hey, 60 different countries are represented here. We're hearing that there are now 50 different action plans. So maybe this is really starting to take off. I don't think we're going to be having the same conversation in a year, though, because this is either going to take off a lot more, or what we're seeing is the actual pinnacle of people being very excited to talking about something. What I want to talk about is actually why we need to talk about specifics. And I want to not go away from open data to talk about open government. I want to go back and actually focus more on open data. Representing the private sector here, following up after Tim's comments about the actual value of open data, I specifically want to focus on the value of geodata. So let's and I kind of love how geodata actually fits into the theme of this conversation. It is something that is constantly moving, right? As a means to not an end. The fact that here in DC, this is right downtown in DC. Last week I was walking by, and it's like the entire skyline's lit up with cranes. Here, this is outside my hotel room yesterday morning, right? This data is constantly changing. What's even more interesting, though, is looking at ways we can actually start to work with this data and open this up. In December, Alex Howard, who was just leading up the main panel, spoke about the year of the open map and what that actually means with open source coming together simultaneously as open data comes together. So as you have more data, you can actually do something with the data because you have now tools to act on. And this is specifically, as Abhinav mentioned, specifically what we're doing. We're building open source tools to work with data. What I really want to focus on here is to make sure everybody in this room has heard the word OpenStreetmap and gets a real sense of what that is. This is about to become your government's critical infrastructure for managing geodata. And you need to get a sense of actually how you can contribute to it and how it actually works. For the CSOs in the room and private sector and other citizens, it's essential to also look at how this data works so you can actually use it to do more with your data. So maybe in a couple years when the next McKinsey report comes out, they'll look specifically and have a section just on how much the value is within the open data geospectrum. So what I want to do today is to actually walk through what OpenStreetmap is, how it's actually used, and then how the data goes in, and make this incredibly concrete. Because I know many people in this room normally need to focus more on the policy side. What I want to actually do is to show, like, pull the curtain back and actually show how the data is actually made. So first, this is OpenStreetmap. It's a worldwide map, all the way down to block level detail here. Here you're looking in DC. You can jump over to Moscow. Moscow. You can jump over to homes. Uh, all well, this is mildly washed out. Can you go back a slide? A little better. You can kind of see train tracks here and stuff. Every single line, every single road on here has been put on by people, or people taking government sets of data and putting it into there. Entire map of the world with street level detail for every block. Here's how this is actually being used here. Um, how many people have heard of Foursquare? It's like a check-in social media site. So they're now able to leverage OpenStreetmap here in their site. You can see this is where I'm staying in town, and I can actually see all the roads right here in Brasilia. Or let's say I want to go out and get a coffee. I can quickly search. Again, all my results here are put right on top of the map. This is all powered by open data combined with the private sector's own proprietary data, right? The dots on top from Foursquare, the beautiful map underneath. This is really open data being a serious infrastructure to a big company. To smaller companies, StreetEasy is a real estate firm up in New York, and they made this entire map of Manhattan to help show where properties are, all with OpenStreetmap data. So now they can control what the neighborhoods look like because they have access to that data, right? The exact neighborhood boundaries, what they want to feature. They can control what restaurants show up next to different listings, right? This is part of the thing with open. Open's not free. It's not just about free, right? This is about having the actual power to manipulate data, and you're seeing a lot of different folks actually do that. Open Data has also had significant, OpenStreetMap has also had significant inroads within the U.S. federal government. Here with USAID last fall around the famine, they were using OSM data to help add context to some of their own internal data, actually showing the famine area and showing some of the camps. Here you can zoom in to Mogadishu. Let's go in a little farther here. All these streets here are all from OpenStreetMap level data. Really gives you a breadth of how much data there is and how different people are using it. So if that, I mean, it's absolutely mind-boggling if you think that just citizens and certain data sets that have been opened already have accounted for all of this. So I want to actually show how that works. This is how you add data to OpenStreetMap. This is actually literally tracing of data. People sitting around looking at satellite imagery that has been opened up and drawing their mouse over the data. Here, this is in Taguatinga on Sunday. Printed out OpenStreetMap maps, literally where people are able to drive around in the car with their GPS device, look at street signs, start copying down specific information, and make certain markers here, and then have all that data on the paper, go back to your room, and now you're actually able to enter it into the system. This is how open data is made, and this is making one of the most remarkable products out there. Many people sitting in this room actually have access to a significant amount of other geodata that's only getting stale as more cranes are put up and as more things change, that could actually be put into this system, and then citizens could maintain it. So back to the means, not the end part here. The fact that you can not only get a giant open data win by putting your data out there to be used through something like OpenStreetMap, the actual process of co-creation and working with civil society and other citizens is incredibly powerful. There's been all this talk about, like, how do we do more citizen engagement? What if you actually start doing citizen engagement around open data? And this is a very interesting community where that's possible. Um, and this is, again, back, I really like how Tim kind of ended on what the cost point is, because nobody knows yet. But make no mistake, there are serious big business interests in how this works. Let me actually show you one of our internal sites of how we actually set priorities of where we go to add data in. So Foursquare switched to OpenStreetMap from proprietary Google Maps about 2 months ago. This is pretty radical, but not all the data is in there, right? And Foursquare has a very large presence in Brazil. What we've done here in pink is OpenStreetMap data visualized, density. In green, check-ins. What we can do here, it's a little washed out, my apologies. Is there any way to blow out those lights? Actually, let's not worry about it. And very quickly, we can zoom in. And what I'm looking for here, if I can, next slide. Oh yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, thank you. Next slide. I'm looking for where there's more green than purple. And when I find a place, I can actually assess priority to go in major roads put out by the Brazilian government that were open source. Then citizens quickly came and started tracing the data. My point being, what's really powerful here in this co-creation space is if it's not on the map, you can put it on the map. And OpenStreetmap is a very interesting venue where governments, civil society organizations, and citizens can all come together and start collaborating around and working on data. And so what I'd like to leave you with, if you want to become part of the process that is really going to fuel location within so many apps, seriously consider putting out smart licenses with your data. Be explicit so that your data can actually be used. I can't tell you how many weeks of back and forth there have to be with different municipalities to get the data properly licensed. So would love to talk more about data licensing. I want to keep this very short, though. If anybody wants to talk about how your data can quickly get onto OpenStreetMap and how this could be a potential win for your action plans moving forward, I would love to talk. I'm joined by my colleague, Alex Barth, who's actually on the foundation of OpenStreetMap, and we'd be happy to get into details. So thank you very much.
Well, thanks, Eric. That was great because it was a very citizen-centric view of the possibilities of open data, and particularly in the context of OGP. I think what jumped out at me was how tools like this can create the space for citizen engagement, which is largely what open government is about. It's about fundamentally government's relationship with its citizens and how citizens interact or how citizens relate to the state, and how those relationships can either be strengthened or altered or modified to ensure greater openness and accountability. So with Eric's comments, I want to move to Marco, who's our third panelist and final panelist. And Marco, I suppose, is a activist of sorts, consultant. He's a chief executive manager of MRAC Services, which is a political and technology consultancy. He's extensive experience working in media, both new and old, and he's run a number of races for national parties and independent candidates on presidential, parliamentary, and municipal elections. He's also one of the founders of Windmill, which is a Croatian NGO which is dedicated to promoting and enforcing transparency and accountability. And he will, I'm sure, walk you through some powerful examples of how he uses data to push the government for greater openness. He was awarded as top 10 who are changing the world of politics on the internet by the e-Democracy Forum in 2009 for exposing the mechanics of voter fraud in Croatia. So without much further delay, I'd like him to speak about his experiences with open data.
Okay. Can you show the next? Can you hear me? Now? Okay. So, somewhere in 2007, I did a presentation in Copenhagen about political situation in Croatia, and then I was trying to explain to the audience what's happening in Croatia, and I made this slide. And at one point in time, the people started laughing because the number of citizens is lower than the number of voters in Croatia, which is, to say the least, strange. And then I said, okay, you know, Croatia is on its way to join the European Union. We're going to join it in 1st of July 2013. And by that time, we are obliged to synchronize all our laws with the laws of European Union, including, hopefully, laws of physics and mathematics. So, and this basically got me thinking, and because of this slide, I entered the open data thing. And one of my goals was I want, like all Croatians do, to have a better country, which means I want a better government. And if you want to have a better government, you need to have a fair elections. And you cannot have fair elections with a situation like this. So that got me thinking, and at one point in time, I said, okay, if I have a copy of voters list for Republic of Croatia, I would be able to mathematically calculate where the voter fraud is actually happening. Can I have the next slide? So I'll introduce you to the city of Vrgorac. So in 2007, I was aware that there is somewhere city of Vrgorac in Croatia, but I didn't know where. On the top of the map is neighboring Bosnia, so the border goes near the city, and somewhere to the there is a small village called Dusine. And Dusine are really important because, if you can show the next slide, because when we made our search engine, which basically translated the Croatian voters list into a number of voters living on a particular address, we found out that apparently in Dusina at number 0, there are 404 people living there. And if you can go back one slide again, just back, okay? So there should be a skyscraper here somewhere, which is not visible from with Google Earth. So, and we have found suddenly thousands of spots in Croatia where voter fraud is actually happening. And on national level, it's not so important because people are voting and it goes to particular MP or particular party. But when you have local election, municipal elections, then the influence of people who don't live in Vrgorac area is immense on voting results. And this means that people living in Vrgorac are basically not making decisions about who is going to govern them. And this is a huge, huge impact. The reason why this is happening is mostly financial. This is something I didn't think of before, which means that people living in Bosnia having Croatian citizenship used a loophole in Croatian constitution and laws which allow them to be reported to live at 2 addresses at the same time. So with Bosnian documents they live in Bosnia, with Croatian documents they live in Croatia. And because they live in Bosnia and work in Bosnia, they are basically unemployed and uninsured in Croatia, which gives them a right to employment fees, it gives them a right for health care, it gives them right for their children to go to Croatian schools and universities. They can get some social fees and so on. So basically the reason why they are reported in 2 places at the same time is purely economical. But the people who provide this mechanism basically say you can come, you can register, we will allow that, but when the time comes you will come and you will vote. And this is what is happening in some part of Croatia. And it's not only limited to border between Croatia and Bosnia, it happens with other minorities, it happens in cities for different reasons. But the most important thing is that, if you can go slide back, you can type address or a name of your village or a city and you will see the list of addresses and number of people living there. So this was basically a crowdsourcing effort. I live in the very center of capital of Croatia, and I simply don't know a single person who actually has a way to vote twice. But with this tool you can check on your neighbor or neighboring street or neighboring village and know what's happening there. So when this website came out in 2009, suddenly everybody understood what's going on with voters list in Croatia, and this is not an issue anymore. So this is fully resolved in a sense that we know what is happening and where is happening and why. It's a question of legally solving this problem, because once you give someone a place of residence, it's not so easy legally to delete them from that place of residence. So it will take time and years to resolve that. But basically everybody knows how it's done and this issue is solved. So if we can move to another slide. Somewhere in 2011, 2010, we did another project which is completely different. This is basically a website called State Budget Calculator. It's on the left side you have incomes of the government, on the right side you have expenses of the government. If you, and that top left corner, type your net monthly salary, it will calculate how much of your money goes to a particular expense or income of the government. And there are a number of levers which you can pull to the left, to the right. You can increase taxes, decrease taxes, you can fire people, you can hire policemen, you can try to influence any major income or expense of the government, and you will know that how much of your money, from your pocket, goes to a particular expense. So, for example, the red tab number 2 is fees to unemployed, and in the case you have 14,000 kuna monthly salary, which is fairly good salary in Croatia, you will pay your contribution to unemployment in Croatia is 3,413 Croatian kuna per year, which is equivalent to, let's say, $600. So this is a significant amount of money. You can go next. And we have education, defense, police, the rest of employees in the government, local governments, culture, and on the left side you have different administration fees, property tax, fines, help from abroad, and so on. And if you go next, and in the bottom it will summarize your proposal of Croatian state budget versus proposal from the government, and you will see the difference between government's proposal and your proposal, and what kind of deficit or sufficit you made, how many people you have hired or fired. So in this case we have fired 19,440 people, mostly of them policemen. And if you add some of your basic data, we will save that version of state budget to a database, and of course you can share it on all imaginable social networks. This particular website have been visited approximately by 150,000 people within a week of its launch, and that's approximately 5% of all internet users in Croatia. So you have to imagine the scale of it. And even better, when we recorded 6,000 or 7,000 different versions of the state budget, we put that database for a free download to anyone, so you can actually calculate what an average Croat thinks of a state budget, and you would be surprised how rational they are. So this tool which we made was made for a single reason, because we wanted to show people how much of their money goes to the government, and that government works with their money. So I cannot have a good government if I don't hold them accountable. You know, if I don't care what they do, you know, they're going to do what they are actually doing. So we have to keep them accountable. And with this calculation, when we show how much of your money goes to a particular thing, we try to develop a sense of scale, sense of understanding between your pocket and particular expense. Because when you tell someone that Croatian healthcare will cost 25 billion kuna per year, it doesn't mean a thing to 99.9% of the people, simply because this is a so huge number that you simply cannot think of it. You have never seen anything similar to that amount of money, and you cannot properly relate to it. But if you know that healthcare will cost you 20,000 Croatian kuna per year, which is 1.5 months of your salary, then you know that you can relate to that expense, and when you go to a hospital or to a doctor, you can ask for a particular quality of service for that amount of money. And next. And this is a public procurement website of Croatian government. So when the EU asked Croatian government, do you have public procurement, and do you have a website which publishes all the procurement data, they said yes. So checkbox ticked, and we are on our way to EU. But if you show the next slide, so here on the right side, hardly visible, is basically a page with information for a particular public procurement contract. And what happens is that they have actually carefully designed a website which is subscription only, which shows data only for the last 60 days, which show data only in a timeline. So basically, it's a Facebook of public procurement. So when you do something about public procurement, it goes on a single page, regardless if that is opening of a public procurement process, if it's an end, if it's a change, if it's a cancellation, or any other of additional 7 or 8 possible states of public procurement. So, and the most beautiful thing of all is that you don't have a name of a supplier and the buyer of a particular service on the same page. So if you want to go to Google and ask for all services between Marko and Croatian government, you simply cannot find it because it's unavailable, because you don't have that two names on the same page, which is unbelievable. What we did is we have found a way how the official gazette creates URLs, and we have carefully scraped their service over a couple of weeks, and we ended up with this website. If you can. Okay, so it's again hardly readable. But what you can do on the website is you can type a name of particular supplier, and it will show you the name of the supplier, number of contracts he won with the government, how much money he made. You will have excerpt from profit and loss and balance sheet of that particular company. So you can actually calculate how much of his turnover goes from public funds, and you would be surprised of the results in some cases. You will see how many contracts he won, what type of contracts they were. For example, were they directly negotiated? Was it a public tender? How many people responded to a public tender, and so on. And if you go to the next one, this is Croatian Highways. Then again, for Croatian Highways, which is a public company, we have number of public procurement processes they made, how much money they have spent, what was the number of cancelled public procurement proceedings, and how many unique suppliers there were during this process, and again what kind of contracts they usually made. This website, which we published in late November last year, includes about 60,000 different contracts for public procurement in Croatia, worth about 11 billion euros, and everything is searchable, which means that you can, for example, ask the website to show me all companies which make more than 50% of their turnover with the government and report unusual profits, let's say more than 20%. And suddenly you discover a horse farm which got a contract for laying down power cables for a utility company. Or you have found a number of companies which have been founded for a single job with the government. Or you have found a single company which supplies just one single hospital with 80% of their turnover. Or you can find a company owned by a son of the Speaker of the House who provides advertising space in hospitals and schools and reports 50% profits in millions of euros, not Croatian kuna. So needless to say, I've got police protection right after we launched this website. So there were plenty of unhappy people after this. So what I wanted to say is that if you look at how this website works and how it looks and how useful it is, for example, the public prosecutor told me during one cocktail that he don't like me too much because now he has to employ 40 new people just to go through this data, because you know, with website like this, suddenly you can see the forest, and before we have been seeing only particular trees. So you can see patterns which are not available. This database was also made publicly available to everyone, so anyone could download it, because we are not the smartest one in Croatia. There are smarter people than us. And we actually made a contest, so you could use that data and do most creative analysis of the data, whether it is infographics or analysis or whatever you want to do that. And one of the winning work was from a student of economics in city of Osijek, who actually calculated that the average number of bids for a particular government job is 3.3 in Croatia, but 40% of all procurement is done with a single offer, 57% with one or two offers, which makes a public procurement process by definition inefficient. We have calculated that companies which work with the government are in general 100% more profitable than companies who don't work with the government. And we have found amazing stuff. So, and next slide. That would be it. Thank you.
Yeah, the Facebook of procurement. Now there's $1 million idea right there. I can see Mark Zuckerberg's eyes just lighting up with that suggestion. But no, thank you, Marco, for very clear and real illustrations of how open data can be used to enforce accountability in many ways and in different areas. You highlight an example of using open data to ensure the integrity of the political or electoral process, as well as openness and accountability in budgetary as well as procurement processes. With that, I want to thank my panelists for those wonderful presentations. I think we have a good amount of time for discussion. It's about 11:37 right now, and we have until 12:30. So I'm going to use and abuse my position as moderator and ask the panelists probably a couple of questions to get the ball rolling. But I really urge you to ask as many questions as you want and as you can, given what the time will allow. So let me open it up. And I think my first question would be to Tim, because I think Tim illustrated a very powerful example of the government actually being proactive about releasing data, and not just using that as as an end, essentially not really believing that their job ends once the data is out there, but really illustrating how releasing health data has actually improved health outcomes. It's a very real and very powerful example. So I guess the question that was raised in my mind, and in the context of OGP, as countries are signing on to commitments and as we see greater commitments related to open data portals, related to the release of data sets online for its citizens, given the experience of the United Kingdom, are there any lessons for other countries embarking on these processes to take away? Are there, I know, and you touched upon this in your presentation a bit, but maybe perhaps you could go into further detail. Are there particular sectors? Is health a particular sector where impact can, it translates more easily towards demonstrating impact or causing real impact versus, say, perhaps some other sort of data, maybe financial data. So maybe if you could just, talk to us about that and instruct us how that could be illustrated for other governments as they pursue their reforms.
Let me just, my presentation, there's a slide, which just if you could, that's it. If you could just open that, and then just go through. Next one. Next one. Sorry.